Hello, Facebook Live, Lindsay Price here. Now I'm in a singing mode. Who knew I would be in a singing mode in the evening? um, so first of all, just because this is our feature play for the month, Perils of Modern Education, a comedy in one act by Matt Webster. Perils of Modern Education are many, and vignette play, awesome, awesome, awesome. This is not our topic for today. I just want to showcase it, but this is not our topic for today. Today we're talking about, as we have in the description, which is here, cold readings. That's what we're talking about today. Cold readings. When you do an audition, do you use cold readings? Do you prefer monologues? Do you prefer group improvs? What is your preferred method? Do you like cold readings? Have you used them? Put your opinion in the comments about cold readings. And the reason that I can talk about cold readings is that when I directed, I only used cold readings, which is something that at the time I didn't find bizarre. I don't know why. I found that when I directed, in my head, I wanted to hear not monologues. I wanted to hear the words. I wanted to hear scenes from the script. I wanted to see how people approach the script. I wanted to use the script as my audition material. And that is something that worked really well for me as a director. Now, you working with students, you may find that that is not the case. We've got a really nice blog post, which is the link is in the description. About the pros and cons of cold reading that our wonderful blog, our blog queen here at Theatre Folk, Carrie Hishin, put together. And it's all about what are the good things about cold readings and what are some of the cons. I know that a really big con, and this might be something that you are dealing with all the time, is that if you are dealing with students who aren't there are some students who just aren't solid readers on the fly, right? Are you dealing with students who when they pick up a book, reading spontaneously? Is that a thing? It's not something that comes naturally to them. Cold reading can be a bit of a skill. And it takes a lot of practice to be able to pick up a script and just sort of not only just to read the words, but also to give an instant character. And the pressure of auditioning, add to that the fact that it's like, oh, you don't get to prepare a monologue. You actually have to here's a script and okay, bye-bye, and come back and be instantaneously good. That might be something that is not going to work in their favor, and you might not see a student at their best. On the other hand, there are lots of students and actors who excel at auditions but not in rehearsal. Have you ever had those students where they can prepare that monologue and they can do that monologue and that monologue is awesome, and they peak at the audition? And that they know their monologue piece and they've prepared it. They don't take direction, perhaps particularly well, because they have learned this little thing, and then when they get into rehearsals, they're not always they don't always excel. It's very interesting. It's a very interesting conundrum. Cold readings, I think, are really, but then on the other hand is that there's lots of students who are terrified at the thought of preparing a monologue. So it might be, it's a little weight off the shoulders to not have to prepare, to come in and just sort of be. If you have a large number of students in your audition, those who are going to come and audition for your show, cold reading might just be the thing where you don't have to sit through 80, Wow, that would be a lot, wouldn't it? Oh my goodness, 80 monologues. Can you imagine sitting through 82-minute monologues? And if you have scenes that you can give your students for auditioning, so say you do scenes of 5, and then all of a sudden you're seeing a whole bunch of people. So that's the thing that we're talking about today. Do cold readings work for you? Have you ever tried a cold reading? And a cold reading, sometimes it's called sight reading. It's literally you walk in and you are given the script cold, which means you haven't had a chance to read it. Now, there's ways to get around. There are ways to make cold readings work best for you. And I've done a lot of experimenting actually over the years, because I go into schools and workshop new material. So it's like they're doing cold readings for me, but I want to make sure that that they're comfortable with reading a script they've never seen before, and I want to get a level of read out of a group of students. So I've done actually a lot of experimenting with making cold reads the best that they can possibly be. And one way to do that is to, get the scripts in the hands of students ahead of time, right? If you're holding auditions and you're doing cold reads, have scripts available for sign out, saying this is the script that we're going to be doing. You can absolutely let students know, look, you're going to be walking in and you're going to be doing cold reads. It's up to you if you want to make the actual sides available, because then you're starting to get into, well, then they're preparing it just like a monologue. But absolutely, you can have the script available. And that's something that I do when I'm going into a school and I'm going to workshop something new. Sometimes I talk with the teacher and they're like, it would be really helpful if we were able to get the script ahead of time and read through it as a class. So that's one thing that you can do. The second thing, which works really well, is to describe the characters. So if there is a scene and you're looking for a specific flavor to the lines, to give a description of the characters. And I'll give an example. So I went and I did a workshop of a new play, and there was 5 characters, and they hadn't had a chance to read the script before. So, I'm like, this character, Mr. Simon, he's arrogant, right? And you want to think about words when you're describing the characters. You don't want to give the history of the character. You want to give a word or a number of words that are playable, right? Because then what you can see is is that are students listening? So when you're describing the characters, are they listening to the description of the character? Are they applying the words to the characterization verbally and also physically? Even though they've got a script in their hands, that doesn't mean that in the audition that there can't be a little bit of physicality. Like, for example, like an arrogant character is going to be, one that has their chin up and their shoulders back. And you can still have your face in a script and have a physicality. So you can describe the characters with words that students can play, right? Arrogant. I just love it. It was a really great for me to describe the characters and then hear instantaneously who was picking it up and who wasn't picking it up. And then you can ask yourself the question, okay, so why is an actor perhaps not picking it up? And then, that's something that in an audition scenario, maybe you can direct them a little bit or try to direct them a little bit and see if they can change, which is another reason why I think that cold readings sometimes work better than monologues in terms of finding out who takes direction. I think that's the thing, more than anything, you might want to know, right? When you are putting on a play, particularly if you're putting on a play, you've got like, you have your cast of 30, you know, who takes direction? And what that means is if you say, hey, will you try it such and such? Hey, you know, you played that character and it was arrogant and that was the way I asked you to play it. That's great. Now, what happens if you do the same thing and this character becomes very insecure? How does that change it for you? And then you can, if they've prepared a monologue, that's sometimes it's very hard to get students out of the rhythm of the monologue that they've prepared. But if they have a cold reading and it's just something that they have picked up, you can see pretty instantly who can work on the fly and who when I've had this conversation so many times where it's like, okay, you're gonna play that, you played that arrogantly, great. Now I want you to play insecure. Does that make sense? Oh yes, that makes perfect sense. And they play it the exact same way, right? These are things that are that come to the forefront. So okay, so cold readings, making the cold readings the best that they can possibly be. Do you use cold readings? Do you do it where are you a monologue person through and through? What works best for you in your audition? Throw that into the comments. Let us know. Let others know. You know that there's more than one way to skin the proverbial cat when it comes to auditioning. You don't have to do the way that it's always been done. You don't have to just you know, do the monologues. There are there's other options. There's other ways out there. Cold readings being one of them, and I'm a big advocate of cold readings. But I do think that that particularly when working with students, you need to finagle. I'm going to use that word today. The process to make sure that it comes out the best for them and for you. So one of the ways is to have scripts available ahead of time, maybe not telling them exactly what scenes they're going to be reading so they can't plan, but they can prepare, they can read the script, they can get an idea of which characters they would like to play, and have that in their toolbox when they come to your audition. The next thing is that when you are doing a scene and you are giving it to students cold, that you describe the characters. You give an action word for the characters. You give them a word that is playable, so that you can, they have something to hang their hat on, so that they know, even if they haven't read the scene, they know, okay, if I'm going to just, this character's arrogant, so let's play this, every character, every scene, every line. I knew I'd get it eventually. Every line with arrogance. Now they've got to step up, so they have something to hang their hat on with this character. And also, when you give them something to hang their hat on with a character, then you can see how they take direction. You can, after have given them one way, you can say, hey, you know, like those first 3 lines, those are perfect the way you gave that arrogant flair. But you know what? That next to last line, let's try an opposite, right? Let's try an opposite emotion and see what comes up. So you don't even have to give them what that exact emotion is. That's something they can play with. So that's another thing. Another thing you can do is you can do a pre-read cold read, which means that once you everyone comes for the audition. This is really great if you've got a large group and you are doing like large group scenes. So let's say that you are your sides have there's 5 characters, and you're doing a scene with 5 characters, so that there's a lot of everyone is doing a English. What is that? So that there's lots of groups. There's lots of groups who are working on the scene. So give them 2 minutes, 5 minutes, enough time to read through the scene and get an impression, and then they go, right? So that it's not maybe deer in the headlights, here's the scene, okay, go. Which is not, it's not good for them, it's not good for you. That's all what the auditioning is about, right? Is it good for them so that they're doing their best? Is it good for you so that you are seeing exactly what you need to see to get a good audition, right? So give them 5 minutes. right? And that actually adds a nice tone to the room. Sometimes, have you ever been in this situation where you walk into a audition room, it's all very quiet, right? Everyone's very tense. It's tense and quiet, and it's like, yes, this is all going to be tense and quiet, which is not necessarily conducive for students doing their best. So get some noise in the room. Hand out the scenes and say, okay, you have 5 minutes, right? And then everyone has some life. There's noise. Okay, now we go. Okay. So it's something that it is a different kind of audition for sure. It takes more prep for you than it does for them, which might be a good thing. You need to know what scenes you think will work best in an audition situation. Something that is snappy and quick. That somebody just picking up and reading it can bring a character to life. I think that's the most important thing, is that will you see students bring characters to life and showcase who they are as actors. I think that is the as I said, there is a great blog post which is in the description, which is somewhere in this box, about the pros and cons of cold reading. If you use cold reading, what is your experience with cold reading? Please put that in the comments. If you have had horrible experiences with cold reading, well, add that in too, right? This is not a I'm the expert on cold readings. It's only in my experience that was the type of audition that worked best for me as a director. I always found those auditions to be really fun. It was fun to hand a script over, and I actually, when in the way back when I did some acting, I loved sort of getting a script and trying to make those decisions quickly. It's something that you can actually practice in your classes, right? You can practice a cold reading. How do we instantly bring a character to life? Hey, Melanie, thank you. I have my students cold read. I love it. That's awesome. It's something you can practice in your classroom, right? What a great exercise to try out different types of auditions where they prepare a monologue and have to do a mock audition situation, where you have the whole group and you hand out sides and have them present the scene in an audition situation and focus on that one, on seeing how they take direction and seeing how they are in that kind of situation. Then there's also improv auditions, depending on the type of show that you're doing, giving students improv scenarios and just seeing how they work together, on how they communicate, how they collaborate. Sometimes that's the best kind of audition for your group. So grab that blog post, because in that blog post, if you click on the link, there is a free tip sheet for students for preparing for cold reading auditions. And there's also the wonderful blog prepared by our blog queen here at Theatre Folk. And I'm just going to end by just... I am so happy about this, because this is actually going in the right direction. This is exactly, it's not backwards. This is our new play, brand new play, The Perils of Modern Education, comedy in one act by Matt Webster. It is a vignette play. If you are in a school setting, you know The Perils of Modern Education. And I like how the color changes. Look, color changes, color changes. Yeah, it's the simple things that amuse me. Cold readings, do they work for you? Let us know. If they don't work for you, absolutely let us know. We want to show both sides of the story. I think that it's important to share how things work and also how things don't work. Sometimes I know that it must feel like maybe you're the only person on the ship in the middle of the ocean and trying to figure out what's the best way to get the most out of your students and have the most fulfilling experience for you. And that's why we do these, right? That's why we do these, so that we we can share something, and that hopefully if you are watching this and you have a point of view, you can share that in the comments. People can come and read and go, oh man, I thought I was the only one who thought that way, or wow, that is a different point of view. And it's important. It's important to know that A, you're not alone, and B, that there's always a different way of doing things. So that is it for me on cold readings. Being very literal. Cold readings. Perils of Modern Education. Get it. Theaterfolk.com. And I hope that you all have an amazing, amazing, wonderful night.